Hello viewers, we are talking on life skill for graduate course on SWAYAM MOOCs. This is module 2, self awareness, and lecture 2, knowing yourself. As you already know, in this lecture we will be talking about how to know yourself, how knowing yourself actually reflects or contributes to knowing your various personality types, how we can identify the various personality types, what are the contributors to a personality, various personality types which are there, how differently they have been perceived by others, and how we can measure or know what is one's personality. As you know, personality comes from the word persona, which is a Latin word which means mask. So, personality comes from the Latin word meaning persona, which in terms mean a mask. Mask is something which we have in front of our face or front of the world to show ourselves how we are. Now, knowing ourselves is understanding our personality traits, knowing our strengths, knowing our weaknesses, and as we saw in the last lecture that self-awareness, the basic requirement for self-awareness is to know your own self, your own personality, because on the basis of that we can have various habits, we can have various attitudes, we can have various needs, and we can have various knowledge and values. So, understanding yourself in terms of what type of personality you have is very important. How we can know ourselves, that is a thing which we should know. First of all, while we are making decisions or managing our emotions or feeling less stressed, we should know how or what sort of a person we are. For that, first of all, we should ask questions about ourselves. What we are passionate about, what sort of values we inherit, what we like to do, what we think of others, or what we think when others think of us, how or when we feel ashamed, or how or when we feel happy, what do we try to do in our personal spaces. That is how we have to ask about ourselves. To know what we want to do, what we like to do, what makes us happy, what makes us less stressed is very important, and that only can be known if we ask the right type of questions to ourselves. Secondly, we can use various types of tests or instruments which are available for knowing ourselves or knowing what personality type we fall into. There are various psychological tools or tests which have been created by scholars to measure one's personality in different situations, in different age group, in different contexts. What core values we have? Our values are the written rules which we live by. By knowing them or by following them, we align ourselves to our own decisions which we make. And these values, because if we have certain other values and we have to do certain other things, then there is a lot of confusion, or you can say lot of doubt in an individual, and this creates lot of anxiety. So, your values should be as per the time, it should be as per your requirement. Many times we may have very ethical, moral, high standard values, but they do not conform with the needs of the today's society. Then we will be in doubt or will be out of place when we look at ourselves in the social context. Like we had talked in the last lecture, that there has to be a social self-awareness. So, if our values or our ethics are not as per that, then there will be a very sort of confusion, there will be a doubt, and that will create us out of place in the social context. So, that has to be taken in care. What are our values, how relevant they are in the present context, because we have certain eternal values, but these eternal values have to be adapted and modified as per the requirement of time and situation. Then we have to also practice self-awareness if we have to know ourselves, and by that we can understand our behavior, we can know our motivations, we can know what makes us happy. So, that aspect also we have to keep in mind while practicing self-awareness, to know what sort of personality we have. If you refer, as I had said earlier, that personality comes from the word persona, which means a mask. It refers to the enduring characteristics and behavior that comprise a person's unique adjustment to life. It includes major traits, interests, drives, values, self-concept, abilities and emotional patterns. Various theories explain the structure and development of personality in different ways, but all agree that personality helps to determine an individual's behavior. The idea of personality origins that people are distinguished by the characteristic individual patterns of their behavior. The distinctive way in which they talk, walk, furnish their living quarters, express their urges is as their personality indicates. Whatever the behavior, personologists, as those who systematically study personality are called, examine how people differ in the ways they express themselves and attempt to determine the cause of these differences. So, a personologist can actually give us the example of different type of personality traits which are available in this society, in this world. One thing you should make clear, that every individual is unique in his own way. There are no two individuals who are same. While we are categorizing personality, or we are talking of personality, or we are classifying individuals, we are talking of some common traits which are there. Otherwise, there is uniqueness in every individual and they have their own personality type, but because there are certain common traits, we can classify individuals that this person belongs to this personality type, although he has his own individuality, his own personal exposure, his own persona, which may differ from others who are there in this world. No two individuals, even if they have the same genetic composition like the twins, like the identical twins, will have the same personality type. It is unique to each individual, and therefore, to know about yourself is very important to understand the various personality perspectives that are there. When you are talking of personality types, you are actually talking of the individuals who are of different categories, who have their different behaviors, their different characteristics, and it is of characterizing individual according to the patterns of behavior which are there. When we are talking of personality types, we generally say that there are three common personality types which we talk commonly. The first personality type is the introvert type of personality. Introvert, a person who is predominantly interested in his own mental development, in his own self development. Introverts are typically perceived as more reserved and reflective. Advantage of being dominantly introvert are the abilities to reflect, to be alone and work independently. It is considered that introverted person might be successful as artists, writers, scientists, composers, inventors, or in the professions where people require to be alone, where do not have to socialize with other. When the introverts are there, they reflect on their own abilities, they are able to work in their own personal space, and they are able to spend time with themselves alone without having any stress or any sort of confusion. They are happy to be with themselves. They are happy to be in their own surrounding. They feel uncomfortable when they are exposed to new surroundings or new people. Introvert persons therefore have certain weak points. They might have problems in teamwork, socialization, public speaking, and might not be successful in professions that demands extraversion like politics, show business, or also sometime teaching, because teachers have to face students every day in their class, face individuals of the society every day in their daily life. So, those people who like to be alone, those people who like to work in their own personal space should not go into professions which require lot of public interaction or lot of public display. The other type of personality type is the extrovert. These are people who obtain gratification from outside people. So, an extrovert is a person who likes being with people, they like interacting, they are enthusiastic, talkative, assertive, and gregarious. An extrovert person also sees or feeds on the feedback which is given by others. That is very important for his smooth, balanced development, what others think of him. Extroverts are energized and thrive off being around with people. They take pleasure in activities that involve large social gathering such as parties, community gathering, teamworks, marriages, etc. They are good at public speaking, they like to work in groups. Advantage of being extrovert is that you have a good ability to socialize, you never feel alone, to work in team, present oneself in public, and an extrovert person will never have any sort of depression because he has lot of friends to talk to. He gives that happy feeling to others also. Extroverts are therefore successful in businesses or occupations that require lot of socializing like films, like showbiz, like theaters, like teaching, like profession which demand lot of teamwork and public gaze. Then there are people who have both of the characteristics of being introvert and extrovert, but again you can say it may be at different situations in their life that certain people are introvert at that situation and they might be extrovert in other situation. Certain people, when they come across new situation, they suddenly go in their own shell. It is like the octopus or the snail who has a shell around themselves. That is what the introvert people are there. So, ambivert in certain situations may have that shell in them. So, it is not always that they socialize, but in certain other situations they are the most gregarious or the most happy people to be around. So, they have characteristics of both introvert and extrovert. They can be happy with themselves, they can be comfortable with themselves if required, and they can also be happy in social interactions or in community functions or their behavior therefore changes according to the time, the person, the situation and the context. They have the ability to adapt to different situations and they are able to manage large group, but are also able to survive the social isolation. So, ambiverts are those who are best suited for our situation, and the word ambi comes from ambi means good in all situations, like we have amphibians who are able to adapt to both land and water. Similarly, ambiverts are people who are able to adapt themselves in isolation also, not being in a group situation also, but they can also thrive well if they want in teamwork, in group situation, in social interaction. While we are talking of personality, we see again, as I said, there are various sort of personality type and there are various ways of measuring personality. As we said, introvert, extrovert and ambivert, these are the major characteristics on the basis of which we classify people. There may be other sort of personality traits also which are there and in an individual. The Eysenck Personality Inventory EPI measures two persuasive independent dimensions of personality: extroversion, introversion and neuroticism stability, which accounts for most of the variance in personality domains. They said extrovert, introvert, neurotic and stable. These can be four different pillars of a personality type of individual, and the EPI inventory actually measures the ranges in which these four people they can be there. So, certain people can be extrovert, being introvert and they can be stable in certain situation. Certain people can be extrovert and introvert and they can become neurotic in certain situation. This personality inventory actually accounts for most of the variance in personality domain. The Lie score is out of 9. It measures how socially desirable you are, trying to be in your own answers. Those who score 5 or more on this scale are probably trying to make themselves look good and are not being totally honest in their responses. The E score is out of 24 and measures how much of extrovert you are, and N score is out of 24 and measures how neurotic you are. And if you see the ranges which are there, see the sanguine person is who is sociable, outgoing, talkative, responsive, easygoing, lively, careful and has the leadership quality, while choleric person is active, optimistic, impulsive, changeable, excitable, aggressive, restless and touchy. So, these are the areas where we have to look into a person's. While we are identifying, if the person is very sociable, then we will give him some score and that is how we will measure him on the inventory. A melancholic person is moody, anxious, rigid, sober, pessimistic, reserved, unsociable and quiet. A phlegmatic person is calm, even-tempered, reliable, controlled, peaceful, thoughtful, careful and passive. So, that is how the ranges of 4 quarters of personality are there and it can be seen this way. There is another self-awareness outcome questionnaire which was given by Sutton, which says that we can identify introvert if you need quietness to concentrate, if you are reflective, if you are self-aware, if you take time to make decisions. So, that is a introvert who is there. So, a person who needs quietness to concentrate, and this is the classification of introvert given by Sutton in 2016, that if you need quietness to concentrate, you are reflective, you are self-aware, you take time in making decisions. Certain people think again and again before they come to a decision. They need time. They feel comfortable in being alone, don't like to be in a group or don't like to do group work. Many people are there in a group who will do their work in isolation and put it before the group rather than discussing, sharing and being part of the group in a very active way. They feel tired after they are in crowd. Certain people, you see that when they go out to outings, they will come back and try to take rest because they feel they have been drained out while they have been there. They have friends, but those number of friends is very limited, and certain close friends are there whom they are very close. They share all their ideas with them, they share all their stresses with them, and but they cannot be friends with everyone at every time. So, they have a close circle of their known people with whom they are happy and content. They try to daydream also. They have a wonderful imagination, and by that imagination, intuitive thinking, they can solve many of their problem, and they try to retreat to one's own mind to rest. They have to be with oneself to rest because that gives them peace and contentment. Then those who are extrovert, if you have to again identify extrovert as per certain, those people who enjoy attention. There are certain people who are so happy when others are talking about them, when others are quoting them, whether others are referring to them. They enjoy being center of attraction, they enjoy group work, they feel discontent or unhappy when too much time they have to spend alone. They have a lot of interest, they are good, they can read many things, they can talk on many things, they can see many things, and because that interests them, it is just everything around is interesting to them. They like to communicate by talking to others, and they are good in communication. They are good in both verbal and non-verbal communication. As we said, when we will be talking about interpersonal communication, we will see those people who are extrovert have a wonderful interpersonal communication relationship. They look at others for inspiration, they look for others for ideas, and they are impulsive also. As we said, that introvert take time to take a decision to act. The extrovert may just jump off at any situation without actually thinking what can be the pros and the cons of a situation. So, it is sometimes very challenging to be an extrovert because you may actually take actions which required a very deep thinking, and these actions may not always give good results, but then extroverts are happy with that also. They move on very quickly to the next situations because they like sharing their ideas, they like being with others, and that stress of being in isolation is big for them, so they move on to other situation very quickly. Now, if you are an extrovert and an introvert, what has to be there? There is another theory which was given by Freud, Sigmund Freud, that how personality works. He said human personality is complex and has more than a single component. The famous theory of Freud, which was the psychoanalytic theory, says that personality is composed of three elements which are known as id, the ego and the superego. These elements work together to create the human individual, and these have to be in a balance. As we said, extrovert and introvert. Now, these id, ego and superego vary in the extroverts and introverts, and we have those two type of personality types commonly. If we talk of what is id, the id is said to be source of all psychic energy. It is the primary component of personality which is there from birth itself. This aspect of personality is entirely unconscious and includes instinctive and primitive behavior. Certain primitive behavior which we exhibit may come because certain reflex actions which we do. These are primitive behavior. They are part of our personality or our type since we were born, and many times there are certain behaviors which we do unconsciously. They are part of our id. The id is driven by the pleasure principle, which strives for immediate gratification of all desires and wants and needs. If these needs are not satisfied immediately, the result is state of anxiety or tension. For example, an increase in hunger or thirst could produce immediate attack or immediate anxiety, and we have to eat or drink. So, that is part of our id. Then there is ego. According to Freud, ego develops from id and ensures the impulses of the id that can be expressed in a acceptable manner in the real world. The ego function in consciousness, pre-consciousness and unconsciousness mind. The ego is personality component responsible for dealing with reality. Everyone has an ego. The term ego is sometimes used to describe our own cohesive awareness of our personality, but personality and ego are not the same. The ego represents just one component of our full personality. The ego operates on the reality principle, which strives to satisfy its desire in reality and socially appropriate ways. The reality principle weighs the cost and benefits of our action before deciding to act upon it. The ego also discharges tensions created by unmet impulses through secondary process of thinking, in which ego tries to find an object in real world and that matches with the mental images of created by it. So, ego is something which we have to do in the real world. And then comes the super ego. The super ego, according to Freud, holds the internalized model standards and ideas that we acquire from our parents and society. Our sense of right and wrong. The super ego begins to emerge around the age of 5. The super ego provides guidelines for making judgment. The super ego has two parts. The consciousness includes information about things that are viewed as bad by parents and society. These behaviors are often forbidden and lead to bad consequences, punishments or feeling of guilt or remorse. The ego ideal, which includes rules, standards for behavior that ego aspires. Now, we can see what various personality types are very quickly, referring to what various people have said about the personality. First of all, we have the Hippocrates typology that attempts to explain personality in terms of body fluids or humors. Body are of 4 types of fluids: yellow bile, black bile, blood and phlegm. Hippocrates classifies people into 4 types, that is the ancient type of personality typology. Choleric people are people with predominance of yellow bile, are irritable, restless and hot-headed. Melancholic people are with high black bile, are sad, depressed and devoid of hope. Sanguinary are people when blood content is high, the person remains cheerful, active and is optimistic in life. And phlegmatic are predominance of phlegm, which makes a person calm, quiet. Usually their behavior is marked by inactiveness. Then we have the Keshmer's typology, which is Pythonic type and asthenic type. Such people are short in height with heavy built body, exhibit characteristics of being social and cheerful. The Pythonic type, happy-go-lucky, they like to eat and sleep, and they are called cycloid by the Keshmer. Asthenic type people are tall, thin and with underdeveloped muscles. They are also underweight. They are generally irritable, shirk away from responsibility, have habit of daydreaming and are characterized as schizoid. These another classification of personality typology given by Keshmer is athletic type. These are muscular types, have well built muscles and are neither tall or short. They have stable and calm nature and are able to adjust themselves to the change in environment. And then our diaplastic type, these characteristics include people who do not exhibit any of the characteristics mentioned above, but are mixture of the 3 types. So, as per Eschenach, we have the Pythonic type people, ethnic type people, athletic type people and diaplastic type people basically, and the last is a mixture of the 3 which were there. Then we have the Sheldon's typology, which says the endomorphy people are short, fatty with round shape of body, similar to Pythonic type mentioned by Keshmer, like to eat, drink and make merry, gregarious by nature and have leisurely attitude towards temperament, towards life. Temperament wise, they are termed as viscrotonia. Mesomorphy, these people are muscular, their muscles are bones are quite well developed and they are physically well shaped. So, they have they are tough minded, they have the they are happy to go there, and they are able to take assertive decision, and they can be termed as stomatonia, as we have said the endomorphy as viscerotonia. And the third one is ectomorphic. Such people are tall but thin. Sheldon calls them cerebratonia. These people like to remain away from people. So, these are the three typology given by Sheldon. Then we have the Holland's typology. According to Holland, the personality types can be of 6 types of people. The realistic type, these are the practical people who can make things and operate machinery, mainly the complex instrument. They are engineers, technicians, others who do highly skilled work. They are trained. Such people design, create and operate equipment. Then there are the investigative type. These are basically scientists, researchers and such type of highly creative people who do innovative jobs. These people who gather data, analyze and interpret them with a view to solve a problem. Artistic type, these are actually artists, painters, designers. They are skilled in designing, creating new things, innovating things. They are artistic in approach, they are excellent in decoration, they can be the dramatists, the actors, the entertainers. Then there are the social types. Such persons compromise of the approaches like social type, such persons are compassionate in their approaches. They like to work for others, bringing relief to people in distress. They give examples to people. They can be social workers, they can be disaster management workers, they can be related to others. Then we have the enterprising types. These are the entrepreneurs who contribute to the society and business, who take risk. They have influence and pressures on others and can mold the behaviors of others in a very effective way. When last we have the conventional types, these are the people who are traditional in their approaches. They go by rules and regulations and will expect others also to do same. They have certain codes which they have to follow and they can regulate things like the accountants do. So, this was another theory given by Holland, and the last theory we can talk about is the trait theory, which talks of Alpert trait theory, Cattell's trait theory and Eysenck trait theory. Trait theories are building blocks of human behavior, can be described in terms of various traits which are there. Traits are generally the behaviors, the characters which we see in a person. They can be friendliness, they can be assertiveness, they can be truthfulness, and they stability and permanency in a person's behavior. How do we measure personality? Very quickly we can say that there can be various methods and instruments of measuring personality. They can be subjective methods like autobiographies, observation, interviews and case history. These are different types of tools. You can discuss them or you can know about them more if you go through a research methodology course, and these are the tools which are used by any individual in psychology or education. They can be objective methods like rating scales, questionnaires and situation tests, and they can be projective techniques which have association, construction, completion, ordering and expression. But what we have to keep in mind while we are talking of the various personality types, again keep in mind that no individual can actually conform to a personality type. They are mixture, something which is more, that is how we keep him in that category. Every individual is unique. While you are measuring this, you will know that every individual have different perspective, but the common thing can be that they can be clubbed in these major classes which are there to understand how people are there in this world, and one must know his own personality type to be self-aware of himself and act as per the situation required, because a person who is extrovert will have different requirement, a person who will have introvert will have different requirement, a person who is ambivert will have different requirement, and they have to be adjusted and adapted to the situation if we know our personality type, our self-awareness about ourselves will be more, and we will be more balanced or less stress individual. Thank you for hearing this lecture patiently.